Hey everybody, it's Andrew Slack and Forrest Hansen with West Coast Live. Thank you all for joining us, and hope you all had a wonderful week. I come to you from Portland, Oregon, where smoke is the only thing that we ingest these days. And all of you in California, I know you're dealing with much worse. So I hope everybody's staying safe and staying indoors as much as you can. I don't think I've ever told a group of humans that before, but be careful and all that. Thank you for joining us today. I'm going to kill the music right away. I want to give a huge shout out as people trickle in, and I'll do this throughout the show, to PDX West Coast Swig by Katrina Blackwell for coming up with the dopest shirt that we've ever had.
Yeah,
Hashtag cupcakes, hashtag sitting on the floor.
I ordered that shirt so quickly.
I
Your head would spin at the speed with which I ordered that shirt. It is coming. I will wear it on a show. I am already excited.
Katrina texted me like 20 minutes after she made it. She's like, "Look at it. What do you think about this?" Forrest already got his. I was like, "How? I didn't even know it was online." So I just got a paycheck. It's going to be in my wardrobe very shortly. And you too could have a piece of West Coast Live and PDXWCS if you follow the link that I have posted.
That's so many abbreviations.
I
Some WCL, PDX, WCS in your life.
I think that we should just abbreviate everything that we do from now on, like just a string of letters and numbers, and that's the whole show. And everybody just has to get like a decoder ring. I want to. Okay, if you didn't see, which is probably not real, if you didn't see the Michelle Crozier interview from last week, do it. And on top of that, it kicked the ass of every other video we have ever done, numbers wise. And I liked every episode we've done, but like I'm looking at the numbers and it's like, oh, you reached like 500 people with this. Yeah, okay, 1,000 people. Michelle's video is 6,793 people so far.
Damn, that is crazy.
Pretty
That's awesome.
great. And I will point out the obvious. That is because of Michelle. Forrest and I are great and all, but damn, that was, I mean, such positivity and insight. I learned
Andrew,
plenty.
I hate to break it to you, buddy, but you're off the show. We're replacing you. We're bringing in Michelle.
You
All
know,
Michelle all the time. It's Michelle Coast Live.
fine.
That's how we're doing it from now on.
I would watch that show. And the shitty thing about what you just said is I know there's some salty dingbat like just out there.
There's one guy in the comments.
Oh, I
like,
think more than
doesn't
one.
Sound so bad to me.
We get next week like 10,000. The entirety of West Coast dancers on the planet show up thinking that it's going to be Michelle, and they all angry faces when it's my dumb tattooed ass. Yeah. So those of you that want that, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but still mine and Forrest show. We'll get Michelle back
kicking.
on as soon as
We'll get
possible.
it back sometime, guys.
But in keeping of that, I actually have a project that is in the works for everyone in Portland or anybody that wants to come up. This is a self-promotion, and I don't care. I had mentioned to a bunch of people that we were trying to put together a practice group specifically with Brandy. And she's just started to do local lessons down in San Diego, which is enormous. It's amazing, which is actually part of the topic we're going to go over today. But in keeping with that, it's going to be really difficult to get her up to Portland. So to sort of facilitate this thing, I'm going to start a regular practice group for anybody in Portland or anybody who's coming through town that wants to come in and work on your game. It's not level exclusive. It's just you want to show up and learn something and practice with people and like really train and have a great time. You will be welcome. More information on that later, but sort of the reason for that is that Forrest and I before the hand we were talking about the life what is the life cycle of sort of a West Coast dancer or a teacher or anything therein, and I just noticed that a lot of the people that I used to travel from place to place for are now sort of setting down roots a little bit more. And instead of traveling as much, they're opening up venues or they're taking over other people's venues or they're, really focusing on local classes and becoming the flavor in their hometowns. And I find that both cool and super, super weird because that's not my norm.
Okay, how so?
Well, it's normal for me to to have to travel even to work with local pros, like because
Sure,
just
yeah.
everybody's always busy, and when you're home, they're completely inaccessible. And now that
Yeah.
doesn't happen. I can get milk any day. It's one of those things.
We invented the refrigerator for you, and you're
Yeah,
just ready to go.
it's
Yeah.
incredible. I feel like it's the 1940s, and I just saved up $20. So I don't know, Forrest. What's your experience? I don't like. We sort of got into it at the same time. So
Oh,
is
sure.
this
Well, I do
unusual for
think
you?
that,
Like,
yeah, to point to something that you mentioned just when we were kind of going back and forth about stuff to talk about today. There is kind of this way where local dances, I think, recently have become increasingly popular. At the very least, that's definitely been happening in the San Francisco Bay Area,
yeah,
where between Michelle's dance and Eric Jacobson's dance in San Francisco, and then Austin and Hannah started a dance in kind of the North Bay, and now there's a new dance that's starting in Sacramento, and there's
jeez,
kind of been this like explosion, yeah, of local communities and people who are kind of being more engaged on the local level. And I do think that there's an obvious question to ask if that has to do with if that's related in some way to the volume of conventions that we have right now in West Coast Swing, or kind of, as I was sort of theorizing, the life cycle of the average West Coast Swing dancer that we have right now.
yeah,
So like people who got into it over the last like 3 to 8 years, 3 to 10 years, that kind of core generation of people is starting to get to a point where they've sort of done the convention thing. And doing the convention thing is such a huge part of the dance now that it's kind of tough to be engaged in a serious way with West Coast for a couple of years without having gone to at least, a few conventions. Most people go to conventions. I think that there's a way in which a lot of people have started to kind of get their fill to a certain extent of
yeah,
the go to a convention every weekend experience and its associated costs and difficulties with travel and the like, and have really kind of come around to the idea of, hey, I can have a perfectly great time at this point in my local community, particularly with so many people becoming more focused on community development, teaching locally, and things like that. That's just kind of my theory on it. I would love to get any input from people watching. If you want to kind of throw something out there in the comments, we were hoping to make this a mailbag episode. I think that we've gotten exactly 3 questions so
oh,
far.
we have three.
So
That's
yeah,
incredible.
we added one. Hey, how about
Ah,
that? So if you want to throw something out there, you're welcome to kind of toss it in here, and hopefully we can chat about it.
yeah. Let's. I mean, let's answer a question, then I'll tell you what I think about why everybody's staying home. So the easy question was from Jenny Cooper, who just hired Forrest and I for a thing
Yeah.
that got me very, very sick. I'm still coming off it. So those of you who came up from California for that,
hmm
shame on you. My throat hurts. Cool. But the question was essentially like, how do you keep it's student retention rate? Like you have students coming in. How do you keep them there? Um, I have very ephemeral answers for that, having been on several different sides of it. Mine usually being you make it cool, but really, I think you do what Michelle told you. I think her answers for like how to deal with that's going to be my answer for everything for the next 5 to 7 seasons.
You're just going to constantly reference whatever Michelle said. Just do that.
It was really good. It was
It's pretty
really
good.
good. But it's, if you make something personal and you show that you care about it, that is proven in all business and forgive me for going this route, but like religion and just club activities in general, if something's important to you, somebody else will find it important for one reason or another.
hmm
And if you take the time to share that or find out where they stand with what you're doing and maybe educate them or include their opinion in it, you've just made someone important. You've made them feel real. And that's very empowering. Yeah, treat people like people, and you'll keep them.
Yeah, I do think that part of what Jenny's asking here is this thing that does tend to happen a lot in dance classes, where once you hit kind of mastery or mastery by mastery I mean like you've taken 3 classes on like the
Yeah,
beginners of fundamentals of West Coast swing. Like you basically know how to do a sugar push, you basically know how to do a left side pass, and you basically know how to do a whip. Okay, like let's
yeah,
say that you're there. That's the point that you're at. You've more or less checked those boxes. You might feel one of the following things. One of the first things you might feel is, oh, I don't really like this dance. You know what? That's okay.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to like this dance. You're going to get natural attrition. Attrition happens all the time. That's fine. Um, the second thing that you might feel is, okay, I feel okay about this, but I don't feel confident, so I'm going to stay in this class.
Yeah.
Great. And the third thing that you might feel is, I want to try the intermediate class. And that's where all the problems start to happen. Because often what happens is that there's very kind of chunky, rocky road from a beginner class into an intermediate class that's taught at most local dances. And I think that Michelle's concept of having some kind of a bridge from one into the other is a really, really great way to rectify that problem.
Oh, yeah.
So that's sort of what I would suggest. If you can build it into your format, have something kind of in between that helps people transition into an intermediate class if that's what they're trying to do. And honestly, sort of points it. Like the best worst thing that ever happened to West Coast Swing is the WSDC and the creation of points.
Yeah.
Because what it did is it created this golden ticket to keep on hunting for, this way to incentivize people to go to conventions fundamentally. And if you can kind of do that on the local level by creating more of like a progression, more of a series of levels, more of a system from one to the other, I think that you'll see your retention rates go up.
Yeah. That's great advice. Speaking of which, is the golden ticket still a thing? Did that die? Did that die in a dumpster somewhere?
Well, you mean the golden ticket of points or the golden ticket of Willy Wonka?
No, the golden
those
ticket.
Kids, it ended really poorly for them.
No, they were fine. Augustus got taller.
Yeah, it got a lot taller.
Got a lot taller.
One of them got really purple. I remember that one.
Yeah, that was Violet Beauregard.
Yeah, Violet. Real purple by the end of that story.
Who was the other one? There was Mike TV, who's just dead.
Oy.
And
no, he didn't get like shrunk and that was the one that got stretched, right? Yeah.
Okay. He was Taffy Child. Like he got digitized and shrunk. Yeah, okay. This is what we're covering today on West Coast Live is the original Willy Wonka with I was going to say Gene Shalit. That would make a very different movie. Bobak says Golden Ticket died, but there's other versions of it.
Nice interpretation, Bobby. So he's referring to actual Golden Ticket.
That's what I'm talking about, actually. Yeah.
No, it's still floating around. There's Swing 16, which is a great system, and I love Golden Ticket, and more conventions should do Golden Tickets. Like, we need more tournaments. We need more, like, battle-style contests. I think they're so fun and engaging. We did one basically at TAP last year with the DJs.
Oh, sweet.
It was the first year that we kind of tried it on, and it was just a great time. So...
I'm building one. We'll see how it works. So
awesome.
Yeah. Who likes to win money? Yay!
I will win money. Actually, I won't because I'll come in fourth because that's what I do.
You might be working at it. I'm just throwing this out there right now.
Hey, I'm in. I'm in.
Okay, so our second question, essentially, we got a write-in, and the question was like, how do you deal with Forrest put it? How do you deal with butts? How do you deal with people who are kind of housing your vibe? How do you deal with like the negative activities and feelings and whatever comes at you in West Coast? Don't hang out with those people is my easiest. That's my, I mean, if there's people like actively seeking you out and you cannot remove them from your life in some way, then go do a different thing. Honestly, like I don't think trying super hard to enjoy a subject, unless like West Coast is your passion, it's like, this is the missing link. And if that's the case, then you need to learn to not let people bother you. But in terms of like, if it's just like, I've tried this thing and I would enjoy continuing, but it's so miserable every time I go out, take up golf.
Yeah. I mean, to kind of give, I don't know, to give a version of that take, which I basically agree with what you're saying. It depends on the kind of butt that somebody is being. Yeah. So the nature of the question that we got is that, it's fine.
Let's talk about
the
butts.
nature of the question that we got was that it was somebody who had experienced problems in their kind of local scene, and there was somebody floating around who was being a real pain and was creating a lot of interpersonal turmoil and all of that good stuff. Okay, different scenes have different problems. Different groups of people have different problems. Nowhere is perfect. In every hobby that you ever do that requires social interaction, there are going to be people that you dislike. That's the way it goes. That's like the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
So the question isn't so much like, do you dislike them or do you get along with them, as A, can you find people that you can get along with and that you do like, and can you surround yourself with those people? And B, is that person like a real impediment to the community in some serious way? And
Yeah.
if they are a real impediment to the community in some serious way and not just kind of like a bit of a pain to be around, then it is completely reasonable to talk to members of your community and do what you got to do to extricate that person. Like, there have been a number of instances in West Coast history where someone was not just removed from like a local community, but just like sandblasted off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
So like we can do it. Like, we will do it if something is that bad, but you gotta mention it to people. And frankly, you have to make sure that it's a general problem and not just a problem that you're having with the
Is
person.
this a you problem or is this a we problem?
Yeah, yeah, and you problem, by the way, is not necessarily like victim shaming
Yeah,
or
not at all.
saying, it's all about you. It's just saying that, like, is this a community issue or is this an individual interpersonal problem that you're having with someone?
Yeah.
Because those are handled in like extremely different ways,
Yeah.
and it's really important to kind of keep them separate.
I did not expect you to go so serious with this, but that is
I,
no, I
it
love
was a
it.
serious question.
That was totally. I took it as a lot more surface for some reason, but I'm glad that you didn't. And I guess to go off what you're saying, like, I have been at one time the most hated person, or at least right up there in my scene, or at least it felt that way. I've had people threaten me, like physically threaten me in my scene, and like that, those people are still around. Like, I see, there's this one dude, I don't need to name his name, but we used to dance at this place. It was a police bar, and he threatened to like kick my ass and choke me.
Wow.
I was just like, do you know where we are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like a horrible decision on so many different levels.
Yeah. And there's more to it, and it's a whole to do. But the point is like, I still see that person, and I don't like, when I see him, I don't like it, but I'm not making extra drama. And I've told other people and everything. And so that's all you can do sometimes. If they physically come at you, that's a whole nother matter if that's the case.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I didn't have to do anything. But if you ever do, person who wrote in, just don't be afraid to do what Forrest is telling you. Get people involved, people you trust, and frankly, don't be afraid to take it to the next level. Talk to the police if you feel threatened ever.
Sure. It's definitely like there's levels to this game.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's really the takeaway.
Yeah, like what happens a lot, we're wandering into the realm of like just kind of my own opinion, but I think that what happens a lot is that we kind of mentally escalate the seriousness of something past where it deserves to be escalated to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
so like,
well said.
Yeah, if it's a sort of thing where it really makes sense for you to like talk to other people about a real serious problem, then maybe it's not just a community problem. Maybe it's a legal issue that you're having with somebody else.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a harassment issue, which is a legal issue that you're having with somebody else. Like, if it makes sense for you to step up the volume, then step up the volume. But it also, if you're going to do that, you have to be willing to acknowledge if it's just you and this person having an interpersonal issue and then dealing with it on your own.
Yeah.
So anyways, I didn't really mean to spend so much time with that.
But hey, whatever,
worked out.
It's all good. I like Bobak's question. Do you ever feel like the further away you go from home base, the more you're appreciated? A resounding hell yes.
Yeah, like 100% totally.
I am not on any flyers or anything for Bridgetown, but my dance partner is, and I am teaching at it, and Forrest is the MC. Like, this is my town, and so yeah, hell yeah.
I'm on those flyers, baby.
I
I
know.
actually have no idea if I'm on the flyers.
No, you
Am I
are,
on
dude.
the flyer?
Oh yeah.
Hey, I'm on the flyer. Made the flyer.
One of them says the voice of the weekend. I was like, ooh, that's nice.
That's some like, I feel like that's a title that's normally reserved for like Brad at Rose City.
No.
What was that? I mean, I think Bobby's watching right now. He always advertises him as like the voice of Rose City Swing. These very epic announcements.
What was that thing? He was talking to Robert. Royston. Yeah, Brad was talking to Royston. You know, Royston is a huge MC in the scene and everything. And he goes, just so you know, I'm the MC. Robert's like, okay. He's like, no, for real. Like, Bobak will never take that away from me. I am the MC. You do not
Oh,
get to be the
how Brad
MC.
had to have like the heart to heart with Robert when
Yeah,
he's coming to Rose City. Yeah, that was a funny story. I enjoyed that one.
yeah.
I mean, we'll see what happens, but you know, hey, I like,
I
you
think at
know,
some point you and I should just turn their mics off and walk out with like Janet Jackson headsets on.
I was about to say, is this like an epic rap battle
Oh,
situation
it's
at some
on.
point where you just have like the warring MC teams? I will say, RCS has like 8 MCs on staff. There are so many people who MC at least a little bit at Rose City. It's kind of out of control. I want to get to some of these other
Yeah,
questions
yeah.
and comments though. To give my kind of 1 second to Bobby's, I think that Andrew totally took it. Absolutely yes. Novelty makes the heart grow fonder.
Ooh, nice.
People get really bored with the stuff that's around them all the time. I think that you see that in local communities a lot, where like if in, I mean, Lord knows in Norway, if a local teacher from here goes and visits and is at a convention, it's like the biggest deal ever. But Alyssa can be just in I'm talking about Alyssa Glanville right
Yeah.
now, can just be like in San Francisco on a given week and you know, may or may not get a ton of private lesson buzz. Obviously, she's a phenomenal dancer and a phenomenal teacher, but like that's just kind of the way it goes. When you're used to seeing somebody around, you're just not kind of as the sparkles aren't coming off of you. You don't have that new car smell, so to speak, the same way you do when you travel. I think it's a super normal part of the process. Victor had a great comment where he had a great um, take on the rise and fall of conventions.
Oh,
That was kind of back a little bit, where he mentioned that a lack of novelty is probably part of the problem. We've talked about this ad nauseum, where you know a lot of conventions, it's kind of the same thing in a different hotel,
yeah.
and I think that that's a totally great point.
Sure. I mean, what makes you stand out? And if you can't come up with that in the first 30 seconds of talking about a convention, then it's like everything else.
Yeah,
It's just not attractive, you know?
totally.
But I mean, that's the case with everything. If like I can name 100 dancers or songs or whatever, and it's all kind of the same. Maybe they haven't found their voice yet, or maybe it's a transition period. Who knows? But yeah, uh, is there talking on your end?
Is not
I
as far
hear
as
voices. Maybe that's a me problem, you guys. I don't know. That really stopped me in my tracks and scared the absolute crap out
I
of me.
mean,
So
there might be a little bit like you know in the living room somewhere, light talking or something. I don't know if
either
my
way,
housemates heard that.
welcome to Ghost Hunters episode of West Coast Live, or where Andrew really needs to take a nap.
And on that note, a smooth transition into another question.
Excellent.
Yeah, so Katya asked I hope I'm saying your name correctly, asked a great question, which is, do you find that dancers who progress through divisions too quickly miss out on certain skills that are focus areas for different divisions? This question came about because some of us think that a truly sucking in a division forced us to learn and hone skills that we wouldn't have practiced otherwise. That's a really interesting question, and I'm not sure if I have a great answer for it. Andrew, do you have any thoughts on that?
I'm sorry. I'm getting 5 messages at once. I was not listening to you at all. What did you say?
Why are you getting five
I
messages
have
at
no.
once?
I'm reading through them. Some are questions. Some are complaining at me right now, and I'm not here. Are these?
Okay,
Oh,
well then I will answer it while
please
you
answer
do
your own
it.
question while I
Or
filter out the
I
10 questions I just got.
what?
Just go
Okay.
on.
All right. So for starters, I would like to note that that there's Illuminati in the chat. There's hearing lots of hearing voices in the chat. I like it. That might be our next shirt. Just a picture of Andrew's face, just the monologue running through his head. I like it a lot. Okay, but the question is basically, if you breeze through levels too quickly, do you miss out on important material? Um, I would love takes from other people who are listening. Like I know that John was here a second ago. I think Alpha's floating around, Ben's floating around. There are a lot of people who teach in the chat, and they might have some opinions about this. Um, my guess is yes, and but I'm not sure if it's for that reason. I think that when you are quote unquote trapped in a level, and I don't think anyone actually gets trapped in a level. I think that West Coast Swing as a system where we tend to end up in the level of our ability or a level a little bit higher than the actual level of our ability due to the accumulation system that points runs on. But that's kind of a conversation for another day. When you feel trapped, it forces you to adapt. So one of two things happens. Either you leave the dance because you say, screw this, I'm here for advancing in levels, and I can't advance in levels, and these people don't appreciate me, so I'm getting out of here. Okay, that's option A. Option B is that you say, hey, here are the things that I have to get better at in order to improve, in order to progress through levels, and you work on those things, which forces you to acquire skills. I think that the higher levels, frankly, just like putting the keeping it real cap on for a second here, the higher levels value showmanship so much more than the lower levels do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so when you start to get to divisions where there are a lot of spotlights, we've talked about this a little bit in the past, a spotlight is a fundamentally different dance style than a heated format for a dance. We reward things in a spotlight that we would never reward in a heated format and vice versa. So I think that what happens is if you fly through those first couple of levels, very, very quickly you have to start performing, and you have to perhaps start performing past what I would describe as the level of your comfort. So let's say that you are a dancer who is a naturally talented mover, but you don't have your West Coast technique, like quote unquote, dialed in.
That would be
But
me.
you kind of sail through the levels. Hey, and you get to a point where it's like, by the way, there are going to be 400 people watching you dance to a song you don't know with someone you may or may not have ever danced with, and you're expected to just like put on a little mini classic routine in the next 90 seconds.
It's not
You know, like
scary.
that's moderately effing terrifying for sure. Um, Particularly if you don't have those technical tools to use, which means that you have to rely on performance. You have to dance with the girl that brought you, so to speak,
Yeah.
and that's what you do. And so that's why you kind of see the I love everyone who is at Swingtacular, but the I sorry, you just sent me a thing. The All Stars at Swingtacular was a super fun contest, and there was at one point a somersault during it, and then everyone started somersaulting during the All Stars contest, which was hilarious, but
Classic.
kind of perfectly illustrates this point, right? I would not describe a somersault as like a piece of West Coast swing technique.
I would. I
So
would right
no.
now. It's got drift and
Mm-mm.
horizontal movement. It's got Vin Diesel was involved. Mostly just describing Tokyo Drift.
That's a different kind of movement. Anyways, so I do think that having to
Bowel
kind of slave
movement.
away in the lower levels does tend to improve people's dancing long term. I'm getting at least a little bit of support from John on that one, and Brian
Yeah.
seems so as well. So I feel okay with this. Why are dancers allowed to progress if they are missing these things?
I mean,
Oh boy, Vivian. Oh
oof.
boy. What do you mean allowed to progress?
I don't think it's an
Like,
allowed at all. Like it's all favoritism based on whether like what technique you value and did they entertain you? Maybe I know I bitch about a lot of how some things have been run in the past, but I really don't think it's as political as people say it is, at least not in mass. People like what they like, and that's what they are literally judging you the way that,
I totally agree with you.
yeah. So,
100%. Yeah. I think that there is actually like a lot of wow, we're really getting into the thick here. I didn't think we'd be going this deep.
I like it.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of grousing about politics on West Coast, and yeah, sure, there are politics at a certain point. But most of the time, you're judged on what the judge sees.
Yeah.
I think that basically most judges are doing their best to judge the product in front of you. There are some judges who are biased. Period. End of
Oh,
story. They
yeah.
exist out there in the world. But I would say that the somewhere between significant to overwhelming majority really are just trying to do a good job. And you might have been caught in a bad moment by that judge. Maybe they saw you during the 5 seconds of the dance where you really screwed up and you had great dances and you had beautiful technique, but in the 5 seconds that they were watching you, you fell on the floor. I think I've given this story in the past, and I love Hannah Clonch, and we've talked about this together, and I know that she thinks it's hilarious, so I'm going to share it here. I danced with Hannah Clonch at Palm Springs Summer in, I think it was Advanced, like 3 or 4 years ago, 4 years ago maybe. and it was a spotlight, and we had like the dopest of dances. Except we were doing a little side pass, and I like turned around. I
I
did a little
remember
free
this.
spin. Yeah, I did a little free
Oh,
spin.
this is
It was like
great.
a dope dance, and I turn around, and Hannah is just on the floor,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, you know, oh my God. So okay, so I kind of swoop down, grab her, swing her right up. Great recovery, feel beautiful about it. We get off. It wasn't her fault. Her heel just caught a floor. You fall. It happens. We have like the best all skate ever, and then we walk off the floor, and we're both just like, oh my God, I loved those dances. No worries. Don't worry about it. I check my scores at the end of the event. Here are our scores for that: 10, 10, 10, 10, first place. Those were our marks. And the judge who awarded us first place simply told me, honestly, in that 1 second when her butt hit the floor, I was looking at my sheet.
Yeah.
I was looking at my sheet. I was marking something. I was talking about whatever. To me, it was like clearly the winning dance. And actually, in a way that was, by the way, like deeply rewarding in terms of my experience about it. It felt great. But that's the nature of judging. That's judging in a nutshell. It's not like the people who gave us last were trying to play favorites. It's not like the judge that gave us first were trying to play favorites. They just literally saw a different dance.
Yeah.
And you have to understand that that happens like actually all the time in the stands. So, I just think that it really helps move us into a feeling of whatever about some of this. Like for me, that really helps me kind of take my competitions not less seriously, but be a little bit less invested in the results of them. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. I kind of rambled for a second
No,
there.
I think your story illustrates the point for like 90% of it. I agree 100%. And also, I love that story. It never gets old.
It's one of my, it's I think it might be my best like West Coast swing story
It's pretty
from a
great.
contest stand. It's pretty funny.
I like that most of us have a Claunch story, and most of those stories end up with one of us on the floor. So it just they're like the Claunch sisters. If you don't know, or like those of you in the chat, are very. We're not shitting on them in any way. They're just very daring in what they do, and so
Yeah.
like anything, sometimes things don't work. It just so happens that they didn't. So that's
Yeah,
kind of all we're talking about.
Yeah, and I mean that particular example was more like something going sideways, but it is what you're speaking to. I think is super true. Where there is this, I've talked about this with Ben McHenry a lot. I think he's actually Ben's watching right now, where we talk about like home, and Brandy talks about this all the time, actually in her workshops, where you talk about like home run hitters and
Yeah.
singles hitters.
Yeah.
I am the singlesist hitter that has like ever existed in the history of this dance. I am there to get on base. Like I rarely get first, I rarely get last. I'm typically somewhere in the middle. And that's my style. I am, as I joked about earlier, I'm kind of like the master of fourth place. Like that's my happy space.
You do hang out with Ben a lot. That used to be his jam. So
Man, yeah. I mean, I'm in that kind of third, fourth, fifth zone a lot of the time, and when I have kind of an iffier dance, I'm in that 6, 7, 8 zone.
Yeah.
I kind of in that chewy middle.
yeah,
Um,
I'm
then
okay
there are
with it.
dancers. Yeah, and like in terms of like the highest level, like Brandy describes herself in that way, where she's like, I'm a singles hitter. I'm there to get on base.
Yeah,
Now, to be fair, Brandy has won literally all of the things, so there are some caveats to that. But then there are people who are more like home run hitters. Probably the most classic example of the home run hitter is Tatiana Molman. She will do a
yeah.
backflip out there. The video of her dancing with Maxence, I think it was, at Swing Diego,
Yeah.
where they have to do like the solo dance movement part of it, and then they dance together.
Yeah.
And she like stands up on this chair and starts to do like a back handspring off of it or something, and the chair starts to slowly tip
Yeah.
over as
Oh,
she's
yeah.
doing. Maxence runs, grabs the chair, like she literally almost could have died. Or she couldn't have died, but it would have gotten really ugly. And nope, lands the handspring. I'm pretty sure they won that dance. I'm pretty sure that,
Oh yeah.
and that is the classic example. And that's totally okay. There are just different ways of doing that.
Yeah, I like what Doug wrote down here. Is it healthy to expect every convention to come up with something new and different? This seems it would encourage people to quote unquote chase the dragon of novelty, so to speak.
Oh, this is a great comment.
It's a great comment. I feel like there's a limit to how far that will take you trying to get a totally different experience at every convention seems unattainable, as opposed to ultimately realizing, okay, here's my deal. As humans, we seek to be adrenalized pretty much in general. We seek things that are interesting, and at the same time, we seek safety. So there's a nice happy medium, I feel, that not every convention even bothers with. Everybody's sort of just at the, we know that this is what people want. We're not going to try to branch out from it. And then there's things like, Swingtacular or Tap or what do you call it? Jack and Jillarama, Rose City,
Sure.
things like that that have taken a chance, but at the same time, they're still offering all the things that you expect. So, for example, like Rose City is going to have a theme. If that's their jam, it's going to be a camp or it's going to be a movie or whatever. But you don't know what in that milieu it's going to be. So in terms of chasing the dragon, yeah, a little bit, and that's okay. You shouldn't reinvent the wheel every single time because that'd be insane. I don't need to go into this, but I haven't been to Palm Springs in a while, but he has gimmicks that do work for like a destination event. It's a pool party thing and yeah, New Year's, bar, whatever. There are things that work. Now, within that, solid management and, efficiency of work and all that stuff, that really needs to be in there, or all of your crazy ass gimmicks are not going to work. But
Totally, 100%.
yeah,
Like that's the best way to put it, is that the real answer is that you need both. And sometimes when you try to chase that dragon, as Doug was saying, which I think was like beautifully said,
I
and I
love it.
definitely think that there are events that do that. Sometimes you're going to fall on your face. It's the exact same thing as being that home run hitter versus being that singles hitter from an event perspective,
Yeah,
right? It's the same thing. And, if you're able to find that sweet spot where you can both push the envelope and give somebody a consistent event experience, that's when you're in like the hallowed ground territory, right? And,
yeah,
and that's where I think that there are some events like Swingtacular, RCS, Orama, like all the ones that you named actually are really consistently considered some of the better events on the circuit. Vancouver is another
yeah.
example of
Vancouver.
that. Yeah, where it's like a very classic shell, but inside of that classic shell, they have found their like sweet and gooey nougat. You know?
Yeah. Who
Yeah,
doesn't like the nougat? Mad Jam is another great example.
yeah, Mad Jam, sure.
There's plenty actually. I don't know why I was hemming and hawing the other day about like there's no conventions. There's a good chunk of conventions who are doing interesting things, but there's even more who are sort of just there. Nothing
Uh,
wrong with that. What's up?
Totally. I was just gonna say, hey Ben,
Oh,
if you want to leave me like a voice message, I could play it on the show if that's an easier way for you to communicate your thoughts. So I'm just putting it out there, buddy. It's
he
an
can
open
drive down
invitation.
the road and go to your place.
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to press pause on the episode for about 45 minutes, but you're not wrong.
That's
He
fine.
is
I'll
driving
do another
distance.
critique. It'll be great. That went over super well last time.
It always goes over well, except for the part where Facebook decides to mute the video.
It didn't.
That's the part where
It
it
only did
doesn't.
it once last time. So yay.
Yeesh.
Babak writes, all these events that are doing unique things don't start out that way. Swingtacular and Rose City both started as an event. Hold on though. Like Swingtacular and Rose City started out with still their unique weirdness though. Like Babak, you were eccentric as hell year one, and so was Ben when he took it over. Unless I miss what you were trying to say, you led with, yes, we're giving you what you want, but here's some stuff I pulled out of my ear hole for you. Like you weren't afraid to put your personal stamp on it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that yeah, I think Bobby's totally right here. Where SwingTac and RCS both started as I would not say traditional or typical events, but they definitely had a vibe that was pretty normal eventy. And then they started layering complexity, which is what you
Yeah.
want to do with everything, right? Like I mean, not to, I don't know why I'm the captain metaphor over
No,
here
that's
today.
actually that was great. Layering complexity is an amazing way of
Yeah,
putting that.
yeah, but it's kind of the exact same thing as your progression through this dance, not to get all high-minded about it. But like when you're a novice dancer, you should not be doing a backflip. I mean, you shouldn't be doing a backflip, period. But like that's a conversation for another show. When you're a novice dancer, you really shouldn't be doing a backflip. You shouldn't be doing a somersault. You should be dancing the dance and kind of understanding your basics. And then as you progress through time, you add layers of complexity onto your dance, right?
Yeah.
So same thing with a convention. Like start by nailing the basics, and then you can go from there.
Doug writes, Doug, you're amazing, by the way. I love what you have to say pretty much every episode, but your stuff today is great. Do basically vanilla events still have a place? Or they behooved to innovate? I think they have a place because I mean, the obvious is like everybody likes buttered noodles. You know what I mean? Like you're always going to want to come back to some kind of simple and together convention if you've been to stuff that's just nutters. But the
Absolutely.
and the factor again is just how well is it run? You know, is it on time? Are the rooms good? Or it's a whole to do, but how well is it run is kind of what comes down to. So yeah, essentially it's do whatever the hell you want and make it run well, and it'll be all right.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm gonna. So Ben did send me a voice message,
Oh boy.
and I feel like I should listen to it before I play it.
Listen to it first, and
Well, Ben, just like give me confirmation whether or not you want me to play this on the air.
Can you disseminate what he had to say? Is that a thing?
Yeah. Can you fill like can you give these people a minute of quality content while I listen to this, and then you can.
Yes, I
I
can.
believe in you. Hey, got it,
Doug,
buddy.
Doug, I'm not just buttering you up. I really appreciate anybody who really like gets involved in the show and gives their 2 cents or asks questions. It's a huge deal. I don't really give compliments for no reason because it's lame. Bobek says that's basically what I meant. Good interpretation. Katie writes, so events that are not themed, do they fit anymore? Of course. I personally prefer something that's a little more eccentric because I only have so much time to go to things. I'm a broke MF and I really want to experience something that's someone's unique idea. Like I personally I really enjoy Portland Dance Festival. I think PDF is really great, but in terms of how eccentric is it, I would say PDF is a lot more on the straight and narrow, and they run it really well. But if I had to pick, like I unfortunately did this year, do I go to Convention X that maybe throws in something I haven't experienced before, or do I go to PDF? I had to pick Convention X. So
Sure.
yeah. So
Okay,
how's the message?
Ben's message is great. I'm. He said on it just kind of like sum it up as opposed to play it. I think it's a great message. I would just play it, buddy. But just to kind of like sum it real quick.
Sure.
What Ben was saying was that when you have an event in terms of gimmickiness, where the champs get like a really crazy out there gimmick for it in terms
Yeah.
of their own Jack and Jill, but the All Stars just get kind of like really great music. It creates kind of a little bit of an awkward situation
Oh
for
yeah.
some of the professionals sometimes. And also, it's a bit of a communication where like just your dancing, just your art, just your what you do inside of this dance isn't enough.
Yeah.
Like we want you to do more. And I think that you do see that at a lot of events where they want the entertainment value of the champion dancers, the professional staff kind of rolling around on the floor, as opposed to actually kind of showing their craft and dancing the dance. And
See, I actually have a
that just
huge problem with that.
yeah. Oh yeah, I totally agree. Like it's definitely not my favorite thing at all. Like you've hired these great dancers because they're great dancers. So like let them do their thing. Why are
Yeah.
you trying to make the job hard? You're on the same team. So
Yeah, there's a
that's
convention.
that's
What is it called? It's a fun convention. I'm not going to try to rip on them. I'm just using it as an example. It's in Southern
we're headed
Oregon.
into
I can't
dangerous
remember.
territory. Okay.
They can write me then. It's all opinion. But every year it's something like, and I used to work at it. It was something like you draw so and so who you've been wanting to dance with forever, and now we're gonna blindfold you, or now we're gonna add like you can't put a pizza box down, or and not that that's not funny, but it is like, okay, why am I the trained monkey?
Sure.
It feels a little weird.
Yeah. For me, it's all about knowing what you're signing up for. And if you go into if it's Jack and Jill-A-Rama,
Right.
and Ben decides to start running a Jack and Jill where everyone dances with a handicap,
Yeah,
which, by the way,
that's
would be kind of entertaining.
kind of fun.
Yeah, like I think that that's totally great, and everyone knows what they're getting themselves into. Everyone signs up with that. Yeah, I think that you're referring to the challenge, which is a dance and play thing.
Yeah, that's
Um,
okay. That's what I'm thinking
yeah.
of.
So the challenge is I'm cool with that one because people know what they're getting themselves into.
Sure.
If you just kind of throw that, and this happens to the champs more than it happens to anyone else, where if you just like throw that on a group of dancers, particularly theoretically at the very least, like your best group of dancers in your convention, and you're hampering their ability to express their art form,
Yeah.
that doesn't make a lot of sense to me on kind of any level.
Yeah.
So I'm yeah, just right there with you.
Yeah, I mean, going way back to Jenny Cooper's question about like student retention, I'm a firm believer in like what is cool to me. I know that's like a really 1990s dorky ass way of saying something, but I want to feel like what I'm a part of and what I do is that weird intangible of it's something to be admired.
Hmm.
And not that not that having a challenge isn't a bad idea. Is it's I want to be wowed. I want to know
Sure.
what I could be or what I could do, which is like why I watch Kyle, why I watch Maxence, John
Yeah.
Kirkconnell, etc., Ben, whatever you like.
Yeah.
This is why I admire these people. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I think that again, I'm like a freaking fortune cookie today.
keep
There's
going.
a difference. There's a difference between being entertained and being inspired.
That's the one.
Yeah, and I think that we often conflate these two things,
Yep.
and we often really mix them up. And yes, you can get both from the same dance, from the same division. I think that the best champ divisions are the ones that are both entertaining and inspiring.
Yeah.
But the way that you get both of these elements, in my opinion, is not by it's not by handicapping your dancers in general. And
Yeah.
I don't mean like with a literal handicap, because some of the most entertaining and fun and great and inspiring dances that I've seen have been ones that like someone in that a move got led in a division, in a champs division, and everyone from then on did a variation of the move, and it became like a running gag, and it became kind of a test where everyone was sort of trying to one up each other about like, oh, how can we integrate this movement in this cool and creative and fun way? Is that a handicap? Yeah, sure, but it's an opportunity to show your greatness, your creativity, your skill, all that good stuff. That's really different from saying, all right, guys, you're going to be dancing to nightclub two-step and songs from musicals, and you get to decide how to interpret these on the floor. Like, I don't know if that's the best way to kind of like demonstrate inspiration. It might be entertaining.
That shit drives me insane.
Yeah, but it's not going to be that inspiring
I ever
most of
tell
the
you when
time.
I pulled
Entertainment is great, but just, leave it over there.
I pulled
Anyway.
Careless Whisper like
Ooh. Oh
oh
yeah.
oh
Smooth
yeah.
jazz.
It was I want to say it was at Reno back when that was a thing,
Hmm.
and it was unironic. Like everybody
Hmm.
stopped dancing, and we looked at the DJ, and then he was just like, "Go on." It's like, oh, okay then. I never want to dance or whatever. Like it was rough at best, and a lot of that kept happening. Like there was just no communication between the DJ and judges and DJ and staff. It was very very weird.
That
Which
sounds horrible.
it was a little rough, but it kind of Victor's comment just sort of made me think of it. He says essentially your entertaining is not necessarily my entertain. What I find entertaining. Everybody's different, and that's part of the issue here. It's hard to be unique and confine that uniqueness into a dance event and not be cheesy. I don't entirely agree. I think that the propensity is to go over the top with it. When you think eccentric, you think like, he's wearing a pirate hat filled with ramen noodles. Woo! Like it's just something totally out there.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, I think that I actually think you're both kind of saying the same thing here, which is that once you, oh, it was Jack Johnson's fault, guys. It was Jack Johnson the whole time.
It was
That's what
not.
Victor was
Victor
saying.
was not the DJ. Let the record show.
Yeah, it was Jack Johnson who
It was
was the
Jack
DJ.
Johnson.
He
They
was
did.
99 concerned
Yep.
percent confirmed to be our DJ for that
That
event.
1% was whether or not he would actually sing and not press play on his grandmother's playlist.
That's it. Nailed it. Yeah, I mean, I think that like the overarching point that we're making here again and again is just this idea that have your basics established
Yeah.
and then layer fun from there. And I think that a lot of events just try to get the 90-second clip that everybody shares, or they're like trying to get a photo posted in West Coast Swing awkward moments.
I forget that's
And
a thing, man.
yeah, and I, for the record, I love that group.
Yeah.
That group was a great idea. Full props to everyone who did it. There is some funny stuff in that group. But I feel like that shouldn't be your goal. You know what I mean? Like I feel like
Sure.
we do this thing where we kind of make it our goal to have the dance that's like a little bit of a train wreck, but
Yeah.
it's like entertaining, so we're all kind of cool with it, and that's just not what I'm into. That is not my
You
temperature.
you make me think of something. Okay. So there was a trend right around 4 years ago ish, maybe five ish, where like I think like Benji was freshly back in the scene, and he had done the dance team circuit, but he has this. He and Tot and a few other people have a tendency back in the day to like do something awkward and then like smile and shake their head like, oh no, I was just kidding. You know what I mean? So like genuinely call attention to the weird thing they just did, but then the rest of their dance is crazy badass. So
Mm-hmm.
when that was going on and like everybody and their mother was doing something and just insanely awkward and then like shaking their head at the judges like, no, I didn't mean to. And that was like their whole dance. Just interesting thought from way back. I don't know. Like the trends in our
Oh yeah,
trends
yeah, yeah.
anywhere,
Hmm.
they sort of get dictated by whoever's the most popular. And
Yeah.
I guess a question I have for you is, do we have a trend right now? Like, are people? I'm like doing the Kamehameha here. What am I doing? Do we have a trend that everybody is? Yeah, that everybody's kind of going toward.
I don't know if I'm the right person to ask, to
You don't
be
think so? You go
perfectly
to
honest.
stuff.
Yeah, I go to stuff. I mean, I think that what you are pointing to in the comment that you're making, because I'm not sure if I was particularly active during the time that you're mentioning, so I really can't speak to it. Like, I want to make one point real quick, and then I want to respond to the question that you're asking, which I think is a great question. The first point is that look, awkward stuff is going to happen during dances. Like that is an improvisational element of this dance. And it, by the way, it particularly happens, and this is on the DJs, and I take responsibility for this myself when I have played songs that I should not have played. If you are a DJ and you press play for a division and you play insert song here. You play Let's Get It On. You play It's About That Walk. You play a lot of songs like that, which, by the way, I don't think I've played Let's Get It On, but I've played all the other songs that have kind of explicit or problematic content in them. Do not complain when you get a dance that includes explicit content. That is what you are setting up your dancers to do.
Yeah.
You have given them permission through your song choice to kind of kind of mess around out there. And this is something that actually Benji has talked about in the past, and I totally agree with him. And he kind of changed my mind on it a little bit, actually, where he was like, "Look, my job is to interpret the music, and if there's an element of the music that is there for me to interpret, I'm going to interpret it."
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're not wrong. That
Yeah.
is kind of what, as a dancer, now you got to make good choices about that, of course, and you can kind of make make wise choices inside of that. But yeah, there's a certain amount of truth to that. So that's my like 1 second caveat inside of this.
Sure.
Is there a trend in the dance right now? I mean, I think there are musical trends, as we talked about with Victor, that are really influencing the movement right now. The Afro-Cubaning of pop music like only continues. We're gonna go deeper before we get out of it. And I think that that's having consequences for movement. I do think that like jazz is kind of coming back, which is sort of interesting. Like Max and Tori had a dance to Frank Sinatra that was like freaking amazing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and in general, that kind of like focus on that more old style of music is starting to get played a little bit more. It's becoming like pseudo popular again. You're hearing more high level dancers say stuff like, oh my God, I really love this song when I play something like Tracy Chapman during a late night, or when I
Really?
play, yeah,
Huh.
like I played Slow Walk
Huh.
at Orama, and like four different people who are like all-starry champy dancers who are by the booth were just like, heck yes, Slow Walk, and they just rolled out there to dance to it. I was like, this is great.
Wait, like
Um,
Slow Walk by Sil Austin?
yes,
Wow,
yes.
cool. I love that song. I gotta be
It's
honest.
it's one of my favorite blues songs. It's a great song.
Yeah.
Um, but I do think that that's kind of coming back into the music a little bit, which I think is interesting and I think kind of bodes well. Um, performance wise, like there is a lot of rolling around on the floor that's happening, but honestly, I think it's way less than it used to be. It does seem like it's going in like a pretty positive direction, particularly in the All-Star division, where for one, I think the division's just really strong right now, and there are a lot of really high level dancers in it, so people feel kind of like less obligated to do that. Um, and for two, I think that there's just been a lot of like aggressive, hitting with the belt of the all star dancers about being too gimmicky,
Oh.
and that's kind of like coming through here, and honestly, like myself included.
Yeah. Yeah. I would be lying if I didn't say
Mm.
I wish I had done different things this past weekend. What are you gonna do?
I wasn't even thinking about
I
that.
was.
That's awesome. Hey, there it is.
Let me let you like make something perfectly clear to everybody, especially you, Forrest. Whenever whether or not a dance goes well, uh, I will think about it for about two or some odd weeks. Like, what did I
Mhm.
do? Why did I do that? Oh, I could have done this better. All that crap. And then what parts of it are a blur, especially. So
Mhm.
like,
Absolutely.
and for the record, Janelle kissed me. She totally kissed me. It was there. It was she didn't, but I made a big deal about it, and a lot of people asked me afterward, and it was really funny. So sorry about that, Janelle. If you got weird questions, no, she did not. She made it look like it, and it was hilarious. And then I freaked out for the next 2 minutes.
Happens to the best of us,
Oh
man.
yeah, we all get kissed by Janelle Guido. It's no big deal. Let's see. We actually, what time is it? We got about 2 minutes left, so think we kind of have to wrap up, unfortunately, today. But Brian says one of the things I appreciate about the out of control crazy dances is that competitors are going balls to the walls. The humiliation, wow, the humiliation that other dancers might feel doing the awkward champ dancers. That's actually a kind of cool point. It's like, you know,
Yes. I totally agree with what you're saying here, Brian, that there is a
yeah,
certain like pride in just kind of going for it.
exactly.
Totally.
That's all I
Full
got.
full full cosign.
I
Full
love it.
cosign. You're super right, no doubt about it. Like I think that there is actually kind of a lot of I don't know. It's all metaphors. There's a certain like die on your sword about it a little
Oh
bit. Like
yeah.
it's kind of like there's a certain just honorability to being the home run hitter in a division where you're just like, guys, here's what's gonna happen. Either my butt's on the floor or I'm winning this division. It's one or the other.
I
And I think
gotta
that's great.
give
And
I gotta give
yeah,
mad props on along those lines to David Hemrick, cause so like everybody's seen the video where David gets kicked in the face. Well, if you weren't at Emerald City or haven't seen footage, he tried to do this really weird thing where he like kind of swooped between his partner's legs. It was like he was being born anew, and it just kind of didn't work. But we got to talk to him about it afterward, and he's like, "I
yeah.
honestly had no idea what I was doing. I blacked out," which totally happens. Like when you feel that adrenalized and you're in front of people, and he's just like, ugh. But to
Yeah, and he was kind of making a little. It was also a little bit of a shout out to the previous thing. I think that the initial, I could be wrong. I think his initial plan was to try to do the same
yeah,
spot
yeah,
because he knew that people were familiar with it. He was like, "All right, I'm gonna nail it this time," and he just went for it, which was, hey, more power to you. Like I would not do that. I am not wired that way, and honestly, that's kind of like an issue with my dancing right now on a certain level is that I'm not willing to take that kind of a big swing. So
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like, that's kind of why I wanted to shout him out is like, I don't
Hmm.
know if I could say that I could do that. Like, I'd be kind of afraid. And David just goes for it. And yeah, it
Hmm.
didn't work 100%, but that is some gumption. Mad props, mad respect for just doing it and taking a chance and growing because of it. That's amazing to me. And I wish more
Yeah.
people would do that, even with like the safe stuff, like hold stuff longer, make a moment
Mm-hmm.
last longer. Because I will remember that, and more importantly, I'll remember the conversation we had at the coffee shop with him. It was great.
Yeah.
And now,
No,
unfortunately,
absolutely.
I do have to cut us short. Well, I have to cut us completely because it is time. Stupid way of saying that. Sorry about that. Uh, but this has been West Coast Live. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Again, this is Forrest Hanson, the greatest of humans, and my
Except for Michelle.
except
I'm
for
I'm a
Michelle.
strong number two.
That's
Michelle's number one.
that's fine.
Okay.
I'll rank in 30th at best if Michelle is number one. That's incredible.
Yeah, Michelle's number one. I'm like number 48.
I'll take it. Forrest and I
Yeah.
like to bring up somewhere around the mid pack, where like the 50-yard line. You know what I mean? It's great
Yeah.
in football, and for
Hmm.
life, you get to see some shit. It's cool. So I don't know. We This is Forrest Hanson. He wrote a book. Go buy it. My name's Andrew. Again, a shout out to PDX WCS here on WCL. We buy a cupcake shirt. Help put Katrina through college. Oh man, I'm tired. We will see you again on West
Thanks
Coast
for,
Live.
thanks for watching,
Thank you,
everybody.
everybody. Next week is Ben Morris.
Oh yeah, we just totally forgot to preview Benbow. We have U.S. Open swing dance champion Ben Morris joining us next week for what should be a super fun episode where we're probably going to talk a lot about the dreaded open season and
Oh, yeah.
what that process of creating a top tier routine is like. Because I think that people sort of hear about it, but they don't necessarily have kind of a, person's eye view of the whole experience. And I would love to unpack that with them.
I can't wait.
Awesome.
See y'all next week. Back with Benmo.